Kitco Mining's special coverage of the Precious Metals Summit is brought to you by Inventa Capital.
There are over 900 resource companies listed on the Venture Exchange alone. How do you invest? You come up with a theme. I'm with Charles Funk. He is the head of technical and a partner in Inventa Capital. Charles, welcome to Kitco.
Thank you for having me.
Tell me about Inventa Capital.
I think Inventa is one of the most dynamic groups out there in this space. We're growing quickly, and our theme is that the world needs a lot of metals, and we want to be the group that provides them.
If you've been following the resource space, you know a lot of the partners, you know a lot of the people in Inventa. Can you tell me about the team there?
Yeah, obviously Craig Parry, our chairman, is a very well-known name, serially successful investor and discoverer and developer of projects. And Michael Konnert, our managing director, a real up-and-comer in the space.
Mm-hmm. And obviously known also for Vizsla Silver as well, which has been a real high flyer on the resource space.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a director and was lucky enough to be the geologist who led the discovery. It's an incredible story, and Mike's done a wonderful job taking it where it is.
Tell us about the theme. So I believe that you're putting the resource space into three buckets or three conceptual buckets.
Yeah, at Inventa we have three key focuses. Obviously the critical metals, copper, lithium, tin, nickel is what's going to drive the increasing standards of living and the EV revolution as everyone likes to phrase it. Obviously they're critical metals going forward. ESG is a big part of what we do, not just the communities that we work in, but more expansively, renewable metals, hydrogen, carbon credits, as well as care and stewardship of where we work. And lastly, precious metals. Gold, silver, fundamental for the economy and industry, and you're seeing right now the importance of gold in economic cycles.
It's an interesting time in the resource space. Capital is dried up just because of the Fed tightening right now. How are you navigating this? How are you navigating it?
I think we choose to see it as an opportunity. Admittedly, it's tougher when the tide's out and when liquidity's low. It's harder to do your business. You have to focus on, to use a phrase that someone told me the other day, you have to be patient to avoid becoming a patient.
Yeah.
But the way we look at it is this is the opportunity to go and pick up projects, and inventors use that to get more advanced projects and move up the curve. You look at that with the Wallbridge nickel investment that Archer's just made. You look at the Wood Jam deal that Vizsla Copper's made. So we're trying to make hay in a tough market and go further up the chain to get more advanced projects. So in every market there's a move, and we think that's the move in this market.
Let's expand on that, please, Charles. What's the difference you would say between now and say like a year ago in terms of like the pipeline, in terms of what you're seeing that's coming at you? Is there something that, is it new? Is it people that are financially challenged? Is it just different circumstances? What's coming in?
Yeah, it's been a dramatic change. You go back 12 months ago, it was hard to get drill rigs for projects, let alone get quality projects. So people were taking on earlier stage projects. Particularly, there was a bit of a change. Gold was coming off already last year, whereas critical metals were staying very strong. So it was very hard to find good copper, nickel projects. Whereas exactly what we just talked about, financial constrained times mean that groups want to or are prepared to have conversations that they're not prepared to have in good times. So that's been the biggest change that we've seen.
Can you talk about your model in terms of assessing risk, maybe geopolitical risk, or looking at community relations?
Yeah, we have a really clear, our group and me particularly have a really clear view on geopolitical risk. It's relative to the size of the reward. I've always looked in jurisdictions where you know that you can build mines. I want to see a mine built in a jurisdiction in the last 4 or 5 years. That to me is the proof of the pudding that you can develop projects there. So happy to look at earlier stage or consider, take the Vizsla Silver story. We went to Sinaloa at a time where everyone thought Sinaloa was a part of Mexico, that you couldn't operate. But there was an arbitrage between the reality and the reputation. Everyone was thinking about a jurisdiction 2 years before, and we saw an opportunity that's been incredibly profitable for our shareholders. So if the prize is big enough, we'll take on more risk. If the prize isn't big enough, we want to be a bit more conservative.
There's a number of companies underneath the Inventa Capital umbrella, but there's one that I think you're mostly familiar with, and that would be Heliostar. And then you have a different hat there. Can you tell us about Heliostar? What's the status of the project?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm the CEO of Heliostar. It's a company that I founded a couple of years ago. We went public in 2020 with the Unga project in the Aleutian Islands in Alaska. There's there's very few high-grade, multi-million ounce potential projects in the world. And the ones that do that in the gold space sell for $500 million to multiple $1 billion. Think Dalradian, think Continental's Buritica, Great Bear, or even more recently Pretium. So it's got a 14-gram gold resource at about 400,000 ounces. We're there because we think it can be much bigger, and we're taking that project forward.
There's a lot of activity out there because I think of a Trilogy. I think of Nova Gold's Dolman. Also, that was talking yesterday also with Western Alaska.
It's been seen a lot of growth. My view is you can change a lot of things about projects, but you can't change the geology. And Alaska's famous for its endowment. Now, Alaska's a big state with areas that are more logistically challenged and more politically challenged. We're lucky we work in an area, there's a town and an airstrip. You can get Amazon delivery to our project in Alaska. So it's not Alaska like everyone thinks. It's actually got weather more like Seattle than the frozen north. So we see great potential, and we don't have the challenges that other parts of Alaska have. But if you want elephant country, it's one of the jurisdictions you have to look at.
The next 12 months at Heliostar.
So we'll be pushing ahead with our Unga project. We'll use that patient line again. We were patient this year because there's no point blowing up your share structure if you're not getting rewarded in the market. So it's funny, I'm not a very patient person, but the right play has been to be steady this year. And so we'll crack on and push ahead next year. Our plan is to get it to 1 million ounces, and that's when the rubber really hits the road to start permitting and then grow it to what its ultimate endowment will be.
Charles, thanks for speaking with Kitco.
Thanks for having me.
My name is Michael McRae with Kitco Mining. You are watching 2022 Precious Metals Summit, Zurich.
Kitco Mining's special coverage of the Precious Metals Summit is brought to you by Inventa Capital.